do, do. Hi, Steve. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I can. Hey, Raj. Welcome. Whew, Lord. This ear is still doing. Hey, Glenn. Welcome. This ear is still doing it. Well, quiet is kept. I finally broke down and took an Advil. Because I needed the anti-inflammatory. Woo. And I took my tea at the same time. What chapter are we on? We're on chapter 39. Yep, we're on chapter 39. We are so close, yo. OMG, we are so close. What's up, yo? What's up, Trilogy family? Aww. We are the Stellar Trilogy family. I love it. Okay, so yesterday we read 38, 37, 38. So what had happened was in chapter 37, I guess I should say, hey, yo, what's up, Star People? Welcome to Star People Storytime. So yesterday we read chapter 37, Earthquakes, and we figured out that Kai was trying to summon her family. That's what she was trying to do. And then everybody, was scrambling. We met Henny, sort of. And Kai too faced her dad for the first time, right? And you saw how Picard puffed up. He was like, excuse me. He's so cute, little boo-boo. All right, and then we read chapter 38, Saitai Sa, where Kai had to kind of figure out what she had to work with, and then she was able to open her tattoo. That's right. And she got the orb kind of explained everything for her. That's right. All these things happened. And then once she figured everything out, then she panicked. And she decided she needed to go for a walk because she was tired. And don't act like you've never done that, because I've done it too. You have everything laid out for you. You ready. And then all of a sudden, you're like, I need a moment. And so that's essentially what that was. I need a moment. What's up, Larry? Oh my goodness. The gang is all here. So we begin today. Chapter 39 is titled The Darkest Part. You necessarily have to be lost before you're found, says T. Scott McCloud. She hadn't taken 3 steps before she regretted it. It wasn't like she couldn't turn back. It was just the direction she chose was the only direction that seemed to lead somewhere other than where she was. That's why she chose it. After about 5 paces, she was in what she believed to be a tunnel. It was so dark. It could have been anything. A tunnel, a vacuum, or worse. It could have just been a bigger, darker part of the cavern. What she had thought was a small, dark patch was actually an endless, dark field that could have been attached to the void for all she knew. That was a Book 2 reference. She regretted not going back for her talents. Her scepter with the flame would have been a great tool to have. So much for her choice of distractions. After a while, her eyes got used to the darkness. She couldn't see her feet or illuminate her way with any of her so-called specialness. Not surprisingly. She hadn't stumbled or tripped over anything, so she kept walking. Before long, she couldn't even see the part of the tunnel she came from. It was too dark. She half expected to find remnants of souls that were once kept in firewall to jump out to spook her. With each step, she expected something scary to happen. But when each step produced no such results, she relaxed more. The more she relaxed, it seemed the blackness and her inability to see anything at all became comforting. She wondered, of course, what the tunnel would look like if somebody turned on a light switch. For a second, she thought about the star on her forehead. The thought only lasted a second. She had left her superpowers on top of the Diamond Mountain. She had done that for a reason. She was digging her heels in. It wasn't until she walked for what seemed to be a really long time that she began to panic. She only wanted to clear her head for a minute. She hadn't wanted to get lost. She thought about turning around, but it was so pitch. She wouldn't have known which way was around. She stopped. But what if she just turned carefully and tried going the other direction? But then she didn't know how wide the walls were, or even if there were parameters. She could walk forever in any direction and still not get back to the Diamond Mountain. Fuck. She truly hadn't thought any of it through. She started to try to summon her mother again. I guess that's not again. She started to try to summon her mother. But then she got the familiar sinking feeling that she had got herself into a mess that, again, no one was coming to save her from. She hadn't wanted to sit, so she stepped herself into such a dark place she wasn't sure she would be able to get out. Literally. Which made her want to sit, if only because Sai Tai Sa kept repeating itself in her head. Aha, as I sit. She just wasn't going to get away from it, was she? Was she trying to get away from it? Was she trying to hide from the stuff she was learning? Or was she really just being a hard-headed, stalling, because procrastinating was easier somehow? Maybe it was safer to her than just getting on with it. That's what she really wanted, wasn't it? To get on with it? So why wasn't she? It couldn't have been because she was afraid of getting herself in so deep that she couldn't turn back. She was already well beyond that point. It was just about finishing the work she knew she had to do. So why wouldn't she just get on with it? Why couldn't she just sit on top of that mountain and do what she had to do? There had to be some reason, something she was missing that she wasn't allowing herself to face. It was then that a little flicker happened in the distance. It was subtle enough to miss, but it was there. The first glimmer of light in that dark tunnel since she started walking in it. She noticed after a few more paces that the light hadn't come from any place outside of her. It was coming from her as she became more willing to face herself. A life without Yaman. I'm afraid of going back to a life without Yaman, she said out loud. To no one but herself. But I'm married now. I have babies coming. How am I supposed to justify what I think I want with what I know I must do? Is it better to be without the man I lost and loved for so long, or stay with the man that I love, but just getting to know? Are you saying that you do not love me? A voice asked through the thick pitch. Kai jumped, but she stood stick still. Jasperai? Is that you? Of course she doesn't love you. She chose me first, another voice said, but louder and more resolute, but coming from an entirely different direction. Yaman? You're down here too? Kai said, turning toward where she heard his voice, trying to see through the impossible dark. You're both wrong. She chose me before both of y'all, another voice added to the discussion. Henny? Kai said, spinning around in the opposite direction. By the time she figured out Henny's voice, she knew she was listening to an apparition of the firewall variety. The voices weren't even paying her any mind. We all can agree that her taste has evolved considerably since then, yes? Jasperai's voice retorted. Yeah, well, I bet you won't say that to my face, though, Henny said. He wouldn't even need to if you were a man worth your weight in salt, Yaman's voice said. Yo, dude, Henny's voice said. I have not a clue as to what a yo or a dude is. Earth English. Stop it! What are you even arguing about? Kai screamed. Once the ringing reverberations of her outburst settled, she noticed the voices had settled also. What was that about? She thought. Once silence was all that was left to keep her company. She didn't even want to imagine the heartbreak in Jasperai's eyes if she were to tell him that she still loved Yaman and would maybe consider the possibility that she might want to be with him. She had already avoided looking Yaman directly in his eyes for fear that she would crush under the weight of that possibility. Was she just being stupid about Yaman because she had mourned him so long? Was she romanticizing a perfect life with him because she chose Jasperai, not knowing she would ever see Yaman again? Would Yaman go back to the Eden after the tree was planted? What would he think of her if she chose Jasperai? And what about Kaito and Picard? Would she be letting everybody down? Did planting the Magnani mean she had to stay on with her Stye family, or could she do as she pleased afterward? What would happen afterward anyway? You're going the wrong way, Mommy. Oops, hold on. You're going the wrong way, Mommy, Kaito's voice said. I'm sure I am, only I can't exactly see which way the right way is presently. You are wasting precious time down here. Do you not know? I did not come to Earth for this charade, Picard's voice added. I'll agree, but it is what it is, presently. You can help me out down here if you guys aren't too busy complaining about what I'm doing. Kai knew she was talking to herself, or at least figments of her subconscious fears, doubts, and worries manifesting as the voices of her children, and before that, her current and former lovers. She also knew that the many questions and what-ifs swirling around in her head would manifest as much more while she kept court in the darkest place in Firewall. So far, it was okay. It wasn't nearly as scary as she would have thought, considering she was only facing her own bullshit. She wondered whose voice would turn up next, but then she thought that maybe the charade, as Picard said, was just another way for her to stall. Shit. She had to find her way back to the mountain so she could get on with it, didn't she? She hadn't moved much, but she was conscientious of her stillness at the moment. She was standing in the kind of dark she had never imagined was even possible, the kind of dark that was both isolating and liberating, lonely and yet full of questions. Not being able to see in front of her, not even her hands or her shoes, weirdly squashed her fears of being in the dark. It made her trust the unseen, her steps. The idea that something beyond her was trustworthy. Except squashing her fears of not being able to see only illuminated her fears of everything she couldn't control. The only thing she could control, her choice, was leading her down a desolate path of a daunting future that hadn't happened yet. You must choose, Jasperai's voice said. You won't leave here without choosing, so choose, Yaman's voice said. Why haven't you chosen yet? Laura's voice added. You have already chosen. There is no need for your stalling. Tell them your choice, Lucifer's voice said. Do you not love my father, Yaman? Is he not what you want for your life? Picard's voice asked. Both Daddy-Ya and Daddy Jai would want Mommy to choose with her heart. Her heart is wiser than her head, but her head will guide her in what must be said, Kaitu's voice said. You guys, if you could give me a minute of peace and quiet, I can get through this quicker, you know? Kai said sadly. You certainly have quite the peanut gallery in here at the moment, Devasca's voice said from behind her, with a light and airy chuckle. His voice sounded closer than the others, like Devascus himself was only a step or two behind her. She knew that was impossible, but his voice was soothing nonetheless. She let out a huge gush of air. Yeah, that's just my psyche, or whatever. It's helping me to stall, so I'll never get my family down here and the tree planted. And also, so I'll never get on with it. I'll probably just be lost down here forever, with my father, ironically in an orb just on the other side of where I'm supposed to be. I had no idea this is what it's like inside my head all the time. It's a wonder I get anything done at all. It explains so much. She was talking to the part of herself that would want to be talking to Damascus. She wasn't expecting a response. Damascus' voice chuckled. Ah, my dearest Kai, you truly are a joy, and a child after my own heart. His voice had moved. It now sounded like he was right in front of her. I like Kai Tu's point of view. Wasn't that a brilliant piece of advice? Something your dear old devil of a dad gave you? Yeah. That's not the first time it came up since I've been down here. Is it something worthy of taking heed to? My heart is wiser than my head, but my head will guide me in what must be said. I mean, yeah. To myself, though? My head will guide me in what must be said to myself? Are you not first cause? Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything? Are you first cause? Yes, I am first cause. She only said it because she knew it was the correct answer. If you want to get out of here, act like it. What am I supposed to do? Sit here and meditate my way out? That's why I came in here to begin with. Meditating can't possibly be the answer to everything. Sometimes we gotta be able to do something, to move something, to shift something with our actions, right? Yes, you are right. Meditation can only be the answer when you understand first cause, first love, first design, first seed, first fruit. Do you love yourself, Kaiwan? Of course I do. I see. Then why are you trying to change an effect before you've bothered working on its cause? What caused you to need to come in here to get lost in your own darkness? Didn't you have everything you needed to fulfill your perfect purpose in Firewall? What brought you here? I just needed to stretch my legs. I had no idea I would get lost. Damascus chuckled super loudly. He chuckled so hard it almost sounded like he was choking. It was an odd thing for an apparition to do. My dearest Kaiwan, he said, you have past, present, and future sight. There is no way you did not know that taking this path would get you lost. The only questions worthy of your study at this moment are, number 1, do you truly love yourself? Number 2, when was the last time you told yourself so? Number 3, what about you is afraid that you will fulfill your purpose on this planet? And number 4, what about you needs to change so that you can embrace who you are fully, wholly, and lovingly without needing to sabotage your work along the way? Once you can answer these questions, you'll understand how being first cause is the only way to change effects. Change your mind, you change yourself. Change yourself, you transform your world. In order to be first mother, you must master first cause, Damascus said. She could feel the empty silence almost immediately. She knew his voice was gone after the last word. The space around her even felt emptier. His voice didn't even leave an echo for her to deliberate. He left her with some wisdom, but he didn't linger. Thank you, I think, she said to the darkness, but to her memory of Damascus most specifically. No, I don't think, I know. Thank you. I am truly grateful for you in my life. Wherever you are, Damascus, you are appreciated. She let out another really big gush of breath. After a few of those big breaths, she was ready to get back to her real life and subsequently on with it. For whatever strange reason, she started looking around in the dark, like she could have seen whatever she was looking for. She laughed at herself for doing this seemingly insane thing. She realized that she was subconsciously treating the dark like it was bright. To change effects, I must change the cause, right? Okay, first question. Do I love myself? She sighed at how silly of a question that sounded. Do I love myself? Of course I love myself, don't I? Don't I? If I love myself, would I be exactly where I am at this moment? If I loved myself, wouldn't I already have done whatever I needed to do by now? Maybe. Maybe I needed to be here asking these questions. They were good questions. When was the last time I told myself that I love myself? Maybe I should move over, because I want to be all animated. When was the last time I told myself that I love myself? Never. I've never told myself that I love me. Never. But how can I tell other people that I love them? My children, my husband, my family. How can I love them and not me? Do I love me? How can I love me and not tell me? This was why she felt stuck, wasn't it? It was why she didn't want to sit. It was why, ironically, any semblance of a decent future seemed to be behind her, which also seemed to be causing the quandary about her present. It all boiled down to that. Do I love myself? If I do love myself, why am I doing this? Message. Moving forward in the dark, as it were, seemed to mean more darkness and more freedom, but more questions. As appealing as the dark was in the moment, it wasn't bringing her any closer to any solutions. It also wasn't bringing her closer to reuniting with her children, whom she missed dearly. Whatever choices she would make about her future, what she truly wanted, would have to also consider the best interests of her children and the people of Earth. She was ready to find her way out of the darkness into the light. First cause, then effect, right? She thought of Damascus. Just thinking of him gave her the words she needed to start the process. I love myself, therefore. I forgive and totally release the past and everything else I have no control over. She thought about Kuai Yin and the hard sacrifices her mother had to make for them all. For more than just herself, but for Earthlings too. If her mother had not done all that she had done, would Kai have had the courage to do what she had to do? She thought about Picard. She knew somehow she made her choice with more than just her own comfort in mind. Picard was exceptional in every way that she wasn't. His time with the people of Lath, though she knew little about them, certainly served him. She knew Picard was born for a divine reason. If ever a war would come, he would certainly be a light in it. Literally, light of the war. He knew. He knew what he was born to do, and she now knew that she was born to help him be exactly that. She felt lucky. Missing his first 5 or 6 years was far better than still believing he never existed at all. She thought about Kai too. If Henny was up there with her, Kai too would know him, but he probably wouldn't know his own daughter. She was upset at the idea that her amazing little girl had known every amazing man that Kai could introduce her to. Yaman, Jasperai, Cinco, Carlos, Darren, Opa, Moreau, and so many of the Stai that helped care for her. But she had never even met the man who helped make her. Tears started to form around the idea that she would meet him and he would behave like an ass to her, especially when he was afraid. She would hate to think that Kaitu's first meeting with her father would be a painful one. But being where she was meant she would never know. Her stalling was keeping her from her most important work, being there for her children. I love myself, therefore I live my purpose every single day like my life depends on it. Of course, making sure the world was a safe place for her kids to grow into the wonderful beings they were designed to be, was part of her purpose. Turned out she had two very distinct and equally powerful choices. Keep stalling or sit. She could start moving again in the direction she was going, deeper into the darkness and her pondering, or she could give in to that sit that was becoming both more and less appealing at the same time. If she sat, she knew she could find her way back. She could bring her family down, and Kaitu could choose the spot for the tree. She could worry about what to do about her life when all the urgency settled, if that's what she wanted. If she kept walking, she would eventually come to the point where she would be forced to sit anyway. She decided being hard-headed was more trouble than it was worth. So she sat, right where she was. She paid no attention to which direction she was facing. She had no clue at that point anyway. She folded her legs in lotus position, put her hands in Jupiter mudra, and closed her eyes. She took as many deep breaths as it took to settle her jabbering mind. For many of those breaths, she didn't relax at all until she said the words. I love myself. Therefore, I live in the now, experiencing each moment as good and knowing that my future is bright and joyous and secure. That's when both her mind and body settled. She took a deep breath. When she was ready, she let her attention come back to where she was. She asked, what is real? What is true? What is unfolding through this experience? What must I change about myself to be where I can see things more clearly? She took another deep breath, and her mind's eye began to brighten. She could see clearly where she was and where she wanted to be. But even more remarkably, she could see Firewall in its entirety, the shape of it. The more she expanded her awareness, the more she could see that Firewall was shaped precisely in a perfect circle, separated by two equal parts. One part of the cavern was light and curved into the other part, which was also curved, but pitch dark. Exactly like a yin and yang symbol. Exactly like Lara's necklace, Latif, and the Aphrodisian sun and moon when they were together. She smiled through her new awareness. I love myself, therefore I take loving care of myself and surround myself with loving people, places, and things. Even in Lucifer's madness, he designed Firewall to represent the balance he knew instinctively about his true home. It was interesting to her to discover that while the darkness had its appealing qualities, it made her appreciate the light she started in. And when she was in the light and found the dark, she could appreciate it too. Balance. Neither was better or worse to her than she was experiencing it. Neither was good or bad. They each just were what they were. The light was no less scary for her than being in the dark was. But each side of the cavern that she experienced gave her a perspective she desperately needed at the time. She also understood through thinking of her father that too much time on either side can cause madness. It's the balance of both sides that keeps one whole and sane. She recognized the blessing was being able to ride the wave and appreciate each experience as it comes, as all good and all love. Instead of trying to direct herself to where she thought she needed to be, she relaxed enough to let where she was be enough. And when she did, she felt a warm, gorgeous light stream over her face. Everything about her lit up. She felt an immeasurable amount of peace and joy and contentment wash over her. Her earlier tears of sadness brightened. She smiled as fresh tears formed just underneath her lids. I'm okay, she said. No matter what, I'm okay. I love myself. Therefore, I think and behave in a loving way toward all sentient beings, including myself. She couldn't help it when the tears just fell out of her. She wept gently at one point and then fiercely at another. When she finally opened her eyes, she was back on her perch at the top of the biggest diamond mountain. Her talons were splayed out in front of her as though she had never left her spot. Except the cavern had changed. A part of its emptiness had filled with the most gorgeous blue water she had ever seen. Flecks of gold glistened against the warm golden light that filled in the open spaces. The water was singing, echoing against the lapis blue cavern walls. Surprisingly, she could understand what the water was singing. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. It wasn't to Stai, to Ustai, but she knew what it meant. I bow to the subtle divine wisdom. I bow to the divine teacher within. She listened to the water sing. She swayed with its beautiful melody. She watched the water move as it sang and glistened while the light from above shone down upon it gloriously. I love myself. Therefore, I see myself in everything. I am first cause. She smiled broadly as she looked around. First cause, then effect. Without even trying or knowing what she was up to, she had arbitrarily turned the former hell of earth much closer to heaven, simply by loving herself out loud. Lucifer looked resolved, but not exactly fazed. He had watched it all from the sidelines and contributed nothing. He had done his work. We couldn't exactly say that he failed. He looked at Firewall and felt like he had been set up. People of Earth had been awed and afraid of him for so long, he hadn't even considered that he was the pawn of his own chessboard. And further, his chessboard was only a square in a much, much bigger chessboard. He hadn't considered that he was merely doing his part, only his part, to bring in the transformation, to bring in the transition. The very thing that he had been working so hard against was the very thing that would be used as a springboard toward it. He had crafted Firewall as a place of suffering, and his own daughter was repurposing it as a sanctuary. He had built the place, and she had made the way. Basho da'in, Kai said, with an even brighter smile, looking over at her father. It was then that she understood what Kuai Yin meant when she said, "It is not what you are facing that matters, but what must face you." She didn't exactly feel powerful, but she knew that she was. She knew resoundingly and without the slightest reservation that she could do anything. "Yes," Lucifer said, "it is done." Woo! Honey, that was work. That was work. So I forgot about this chapter and it reminds me of Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith always says out loud, he says, the devil means it for evil, but God means it for good. And so that whole chapter, especially the last part, reminded me of that. How Firewall was transformed. And that whole statement about the concept of the devil being a pawn in his own chessboard. Like, people who do shitty things, they don't even... That's why you always say, like, everything is God. Because people who do shitty things don't even realize how they're actually propelling you into, you know, the next phase of your unfoldment. And so, again, it goes back to our perception of things. How do we wish to perceive it? Something might be an annoyance, something might be fucked up, you know, people might do fucked up things, and our feelings might be hurt by it. But if you take a few paces back, you might get a glimpse of what the bigger picture is. And so this whole chapter, going back to how I feel about myself, is how I approach the world. We can only see the world through the same lens we see ourselves. And so I feel like this whole chapter is the setup for not only self-love, you have to love yourself. You are first cause, right? And so how you gain that perspective is by sitting your ass down, right? But that whole piece, like, I almost want to go back and read it again. That whole piece about first cause, you have to understand what first cause is. You are first cause in your world. You deal with the causes first and then the effects. So you look at what you see, you can see whatever it is going on in your world. And if you don't like it, you still have to go back to first cause. Okay. what's going on in me? What is real? What is true? What is unfolding through this situation? This chapter is like, this is the most church, most school right here. Especially the part with the pawn and the chessboard. He had done his work, but he couldn't exactly say that he failed. He had done his work, but he couldn't exactly say that he failed. He looked at Firewall and felt like he had been set up. People of Earth had been awed and afraid of him for so long, he hadn't even considered that he was the pawn of his own chessboard. And further, his chessboard was only a square. Was only a square in a much, much bigger chessboard. He hadn't considered that he was merely doing his part, only his part, to bring in the transition. The very thing he had been working so hard against was the very thing that he would be used as a springboard toward. He had crafted Firewall as a place of suffering, and his own daughter was repurposing it as a sanctuary. He had built the place, and she had made the way. That right there, you might need to meditate on that one. All right, what do we got? What's going? Okay. All right. Larry's laughing. Love triangle. Yeah, that's deep. Oh my God. Hey, Terrell, what's up? Dilemma of the heart. She has so many things to do at once. That's right. Doing the right thing or what is expected is never an easy thing to do. Nope. Life shows you how your energy affects others. Yes, it does come down to self-acceptance, Larry. I broke the code. You are Kai. No, you are Kai. We're all Kai. Kai. Oh, come on, Steve. You already know this. This is book one material. Kai is you. Kai is Kai. The name Kai means love. So we already been through that. You wrote each chapter after a meditation session. I did not, Steve. I did none of that. I did not. You know what's so funny? When I was writing this book, now you have to understand the first two books, I had sounding boards. So what that meant is I was able to write the chapters, and then I would have somebody that I was able to read to. I don't even know. That's just how I got through the first book. Very, very, the same dear friend that said, I think I told you sometime this week that I was writing, pages. I was writing, I had pages in my journal, and that I shared with my dear friend. And he was like, you need to write this book. And I looked at him like he's crazy over the phone, as we do. You're like, this nigga's crazy. Anyway, so essentially what would happen is I would write the chapters, and I would call Dupress, and I'd be like, yo, this is the chapter. And he'd be like, oh, that's so good, keep going. Oh, that's so good, keep going. So that's how I was able to write the first book, because I basically had my training wheels on and a little mini audience. And the second book was very similar, but I had a different sounding board that time. And this book I wrote without a sounding board. I wrote, but I didn't sit in meditation every 5. Actually, this chapter is similar content as your words before. Is that right? Which one? Which meditation session? The one this morning? Ever? Well, that would make sense. Maybe. You do know. Now would be a good time. I was going to save this for the end. Yeah, I'm still going to save it for the end. There's a dear reader in the beginning of the book. There's a dear reader in the beginning of the book. What do you mean you see me now? What is happening? This you do understand that this whole entire series is a spiritual journey. You get it, right? You get it? You understand? It's a spiritual journey. So this is kind of like this is kind of like spiritual literacy 101. I just made it into a sci-fi book. Gotcha. Oh, it's kind of funny. Y'all are great. All right. I feel so much better. I still can't hear out of this ear, but I took an Advil, like Teddy said. Can't hide from yourself. Sure can't. Sure can't. Okay, so tomorrow we read chapter 40. We almost done. Aren't you excited? So we read chapter 40 tomorrow. Yeah. And so wow. Yeah, that's what we do. So we read chapter 40 tomorrow. Just one chapter tomorrow. I'm going to have to do some printing out. So we read chapter 40 tomorrow. Remember, those of you who are new, hi, welcome. We read spiritual books around these parts. This is the Stellar family over here. What's up, Star people? If you want to catch up, for those of you who are new, Facebook page, the Stellar Trilogy series, has all the videos from the prologue. It's very dope. Yay! And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do about after we're finished, because we're almost done. Hey, Timmy. What's up, Tim? Because we're almost done. Yeah. So I'm trying to decide if we'll start, because book 1 is a lot shorter, so we'll probably get through that a lot faster. We probably won't need the whole month. So maybe I'll take like the first week. We'll take some days off, and then we'll come back. Yeah. All right, Steve. We'll see you mañana. Levine Isle. And then, okay, well, whatever. We'll figure out what we do after we're done, because we're almost done, and we really need to come to understand what we're going to do after this. So I definitely want to go back and read book 1. I just have to figure out timing. Okay? And I won't take a whole entire September month off, because Star People Storytime is like the light of my life. We'll work that out. Other announcement. Good night, Bernard. Other announcement. Remember, 11:11 a.m. we do Stop, Drop, and Meditate. So if you want to meditate, you've never been meditating, you want to try meditation, you need guidance meditating, every morning at 11:11 a.m. we do that. It's only going to happen through the month of August. We'll see what happens after that, but August is ending quickly, so if you want to just try it out, see what it looks like, tomorrow, 11:11 a.m. That is all of my announcements. We will be back tomorrow with chapter 40. We did it. We're almost there. Give yourself a round of applause. And, okay, Tim, call me. Okay, inbox me. All right, my boops. I love you. You know I love you. Oh my gosh, I love you so much. You have no idea. I'm just pouring out love and light to you right now. All right. Levine House Star people, I'll see you mañana. Peace out.